Hi, I'm Kelly Galbraith. Welcome to my podcast, Serendipity, and this is episode 4, Curls and Tresses, a tribute to hairstylists during Covid-19. Do you miss your hairstylist? I certainly do. When I catch a glimpse of my unruly curls in the mirror, I realize I'm channeling Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons. His wicked grin and wild mop scares children and puppies. In my case, during this COVID-19 lockdown, I scare myself. I long for the time when once again the warm towel is wrapped around my neck, followed by the long black plastic bib draped around my body. I'll lean back in the chair while Nick, my hairstylist, lathers the coconut, lavender, and lemongrass shampoo on my head and gives me a glorious head massage. Right now, Nick is safe in his home. Even the most famous barber of the 20th century is looking good right now, aka Bugs Bunny.
Welcome to my shop. Let me cut your mop. Let me shave your crop. Daintily, daintily. Hey you! Don't look so perplexed. Why must you be vexed? Can't you see you're next? Yes, you're next. You're so next. How about a nice close shave? Teach your whiskers to behave. Lots of lather, lots of soap. Please hold still, don't be a dope. Now we're ready for the scraping. There's no use to try escaping. Yell and scream and rant and rave. It's no use, you need a shave.
Ooh, ouch, ouch, ooh, ouch, ooh, ooh, ouch!
There, you're nice and clean. Although your face looks like it might have gone through a machine.
Thanks, Bugs, for that walk through memory lane. I'm sure that many of you, in days that now seem so long, long ago, have walked into your hair appointment holding a newly torn sheet from an entertainment magazine that featured your favorite celebrity sporting the latest do. You insisted to your stylist to please cut your hair to look like them. It didn't matter that your long face might not work with a beehive of the late 50s, or your hair was too thin to sport the 60s look of the flower child with long tresses strewn with flowers. Many of you insisted that you wanted to become the spitting image of the 70s bombshell Farah Fawcett with her feathered coif. Then there was the Tony Tennille surf cut, which meant that you always had to have a curling iron plugged into your bathroom electrical outlet for the constantly needed touch-up. And of course, there was a pinup girl, Bo Derek, and her iconic look of cornrows. I still laugh remembering classmates gathering in the St. John High School halls, tossing their newly acquired rows over their shoulders, trying to emulate that very sexy siren. I couldn't do cornrows, but I once tried the short shag. That was a disaster. It really didn't work with my platform shoes and plaid pants, and I didn't look nearly as hip as I thought. After that, it was the afro, a style I embraced, and I never left home without my afro pick. But instead of looking like the iconic Barbra Streisand, I look more like Phil Spector, Richard Simmons, or Arnold Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. Yep, boys were lined up to ask me to dance, not. Tell me I'm not alone. Have you had a bad hair day? I bet you are now. Because our hair salons and barber shops are closed, we are becoming shaggier and grayer. It isn't only toilet paper that's flying off the shelves. Hair dye is also becoming scarce, as some of us try to keep our secret that we only share with our hairstylist. Does she or doesn't she? That question isn't new. Over the years, there have been lots of hair care products that have helped tide us over until our next visit to the salon.
Which twin has the Tony? You can't tell? Nobody can, not yet anyway. But wait.
There was the 1960 home perm kit called Tony, manufactured in Minnesota.
Now you can tell. Now anybody can tell which twin has the Tony, because Tony has hidden body that lasts and lasts. With Tony, your hair never lets you down. The smooth, sleek styles use uncurly Tony. And for soft, fluffy curls, new no-mix Tony.
For the fellas, there was Bryl Cream, founded in 1928 in Birmingham and recently sported by the men in the TV series Mad Men. a sleek, slick-back do that would catch the eye of the ladies. It's a, quote, not a hair out of place style, unquote, that became popular during World War II and continued into the 50s.
With Bryl Cream, a little dabble'll do you. Watch Bryl Cream put life in dry hair and fun back into your life. Bryl Cream gives your hair that look the ladies love.
Excitingly clean, disturbingly healthy, so masculine.
In the 1960s, women were told by their stylists not to wash their hair more than once a week and to use dippity-doo between visits to the salon. It was invented in 1965, and I remember seeing my grandmother dipping her fingers into this goo that looked more like Jell-O than today's silky type of hair gel.
This year, fashion loves the big, big curl. The big, big curl loves dippity-doo, dippity-doo. Rollers cling to dippity-doo. Never slip, never drip. Now rollers out, curl is in. Really in with dippity-doo, 'cause nothing holds like dippity-doo. Holes and holes like dippity-doo. Big curls need big holes, so hold it with dippity-doo.
But its popularity went far beyond grandma's. It is reported that Kiss drummer Eric Carr used the stuff every night, and he slept in it with a stocking cap over his hair so that his curls would become flat and he would look more like a member of the Beatles. Because of our renewed appreciation for our hairstylists, I was curious to find out if they had a patron saint. Turns out they do, and surprise, surprise, it is Jesus' friend, Mary Magdalene. She is usually remembered as traveling around with him on his journeys, standing at the foot of the cross, and visiting the empty tomb on Easter morning. But legend has it that after the resurrection, she lived in a cave as a hermit. Her clothes rotted, and God blessed her with long, luxurious tresses that modestly covered her body and kept her warm. Cleopatra never made it as a patron saint, but the historic Queen of the Nile did have a great hairdo, and undoubtedly a great hairstylist too. She was a brilliant empress who spoke 12 languages and was knowledgeable about astronomy, math, and many other subjects. But when we think of her today, it's usually in terms of Elizabeth Taylor's iconic portrayal in the 1963 movie Cleopatra. Here she's depicted as a sexy temptress who brought men to their knees. And 1960s hairstylist Vidal Sassoon also created a hairstyle inspired by Taylor's legendary look. Cleopatra isn't the only famous woman who entered a city with pomp and circumstance and a great hairdo. 1,000 years ago, the person who inspired a famous chocolate company to carry her name as its brand did the same. That was, of course, Lady Godiva. She continuously begged her husband to reduce the heavy taxes he imposed on the citizens of Coventry, England, because they were suffering great hardship. To stop her unrelenting nagging, he sarcastically replied that, if she rode naked through the crowded marketplace, he'd do it. In the spirit of, I'll show you, she went trotting along on a horse with her long hair covering all of her body except her legs. Her husband demanded that everyone in town remain indoors. But, as legend has it, one peeping Tom who snuck a look either became blind or was struck dead. I'll close this podcast with a tale of another famous hairstylist. And this is a cautionary tale for all of us who can't go to the salon and we're sore tempted to ask a family member or roommate that is self-isolating with us to cut our hair. Her name is Delilah, and she's mentioned in the Old Testament book of Judges. Samson was her lover, and he was totally smitten and would do anything for her, but allow her to cut his hair. His hair gave him his super strength. She didn't reciprocate that devotion and took a bribe of 1,100 silver coins from the Philistines to shear his locks. While he slept, she ordered a servant to cut his hair. Over the years, there's been so much artistic license in the recreation of this story through music and art, depicting Delilah as the actual barber. Regardless of whether she did it or she had someone else do it, his hair was cut. He loses his Herculean strength until it grows out. So be warned. Be careful who you ask to trim your locks. I am, so have started looking at YouTube videos on how best to cut curly hair. So no worries, Nick, my stylist. I'm grateful for you and others like you, and in my mind, yours is an essential service to be sure. And when we meet next, I promise you a very fat tip. Stay well, stay safe, until we meet again.